Hello, everyone, and welcome to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the show that talks about sports and other topics relatable to sports fans. Joining me again this week is Scott Blander in Pennsylvania.
Hey, good to be back. It's been a while. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's been way too long, but definitely happy to be in this room and in this chair, ready to rock and roll. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. We have a lot of sports that we could talk about right now, but I think the hottest topic, as far as going into the playoffs and end of the season and closing the chapter on uh, what is a very, very exciting baseball season is the American League Most Valuable Player Award. So we have Aaron Judge, who's a local New York Yankee, who's basically number one in every offensive category at this point, versus Otani from the Angels, who is a great hitter and also a great pitcher. Has under a 3 ERA, has over a strikeout an inning, averaging. So what's your take on the American League MVP race, and how do you feel about who should win?
Well, I'm probably going to surprise you here in that I think it absolutely should be Aaron Judge. Figured I'd probably go the anti-Yankees route, but no. I mean, yeah, he's number one in. I saw the stats. I think today or yesterday. He's number one in pretty much everything. I think the home run chase, of course, is very exciting, but I think too much emphasis is put on that. But I mean, he's number one across the board. He's got a shot to win the Triple Crown, which is pretty rare. So I think, and not to mention they're a playoff team. I'm not. I know a lot of leagues tend to put emphasis on the MVP as to whether the team made the playoffs. In a team sport, I'm not sure I agree with that, but that seems to be the norm over the years. But in any case, so Yankees are obviously going to the playoffs. Angels are not. But I'm going to minimize that. Just the fact that he's got number ones across the board for pretty much all his stats. He's just tied Babe Ruth in home runs. He's probably going to eclipse Maris or at least tie him, I would assume. So I don't see any reason why Judge should not get the MVP over Otani.
So I'm going to say that I agree. I definitely think it should be Aaron Judge, but there's a lot of chatter, especially from, I guess, from what I can see, mostly the New York market of sports fans, and a lot of people just think it's going to be like unanimous. It's a slam dunk. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think when you look at what Otani's been able to accomplish, he's doing things that haven't been done since like 2000, like 1910. Like 1920. Like these,
Yeah.
you always hear something like, he's pitched 6 innings with like 10 strikeouts and also had 2 homers. That hasn't happened since like 1915. So I mean, he's doing things that are unheard of. I think in any other year, he would definitely it would be a slam dunk for him to win it. Like he ended up winning it last year over Vladimir Guerrero, who had some girthy stats of his own. But you're looking at a situation here where just one man is just completely dominating and being able to be number one in everything. You really can't overlook that. It's a shame, I think, that these both happened on the same year, because if you look at Otani's stats, like he's basically the ultimate baseball player, and even in these times that pitchers aren't hitting, like because they ended up taking the DH, they ended up instilling the DH into the National League, so really no other pitchers are hitting at this point, but he's over there. He's hitting 30 homers and still going out there every 5 days, and other than against the Yankees, like every time he plays in Yankee Stadium, he gets shelled. But any other place, he's doing really well as a pitcher. So I don't think it's a runaway. I think if you look at his season, I think 9 out of 10 times he would get the MVP. It's just not going to happen this year because of the triple crown chase. And also too, as far as the triple crown goes, I was actually shocked that Aaron Judge was, because you usually see the leading hitter of the league is usually like above 330 or well above 330, and it's just weird that I think overall in baseball the like hitting for average is not what it used to be.
No, definitely not. Somebody just today I saw a stat that the league batting average, and I don't recall exactly what it said, but the league average batting average is like the lowest it's been in decades, I think. Don't quote me on that. It was pretty astonishing, the stat that I saw. Yeah, averages are just not what they used to be. I mean, 300 was always the mark of good, but it never was the mark of great, and
Yeah.
now it kind of is.
Yeah.
So yeah, just numbers are really down, and also the fact that he's got that batting average, you don't really see that out of sluggers. I grew up in the age of McGuire and Sosa and Canseco and all those guys, Griffey, and your sluggers, that were going to hit 40, 50, 60, 70 home. Barry Bonds, of course. Barry Bonds was the exception of the rule because he did hit for average, but most of you're just sluggers, you're just pure home run hitters, usually had averages in the low 220s or low 200s. So the fact that he does have a very good batting average on top of those ridiculous power numbers is something you don't really see anymore. So all the more reason why I would put him at the top. And like you said, I don't think it's a slam dunk. I'm looking at Ohtani's numbers right now. I mean, just the fact that he's a slugger and a pitcher, and a good one at that, like you said, would put him in the running for MVP every year, which he won last year. He's fifth in the AL and ERA. So no, it's definitely not a slam dunk, and you're going to have some sports writers who do have an anti-New York bias that are probably going to, and that's the flaws in awards like this. In that, there's going to be New York biased, pro biased voting, but there's also going to be people that are not going to vote for Judge just because he's a Yankee, just because he's part of New York market. So you never know. So no, you're correct. It's definitely not a slam dunk. I think Yankee fans are getting a little ahead of themselves, but I don't see any reason why. I think it would be a huge shock and a huge snub if Ohtani got it this particular year over Judge. I mean, Judge is having a year for the record books, just in every stat. So I think it's Judge all the way. But like you said, it's not a done deal.
Yeah, and I'd say for when you look at Judge's year from a unbiased perspective, I think the average, right now he's 317. That's good. Like, that's great right now, but let's say like 10 years ago, that wouldn't be leading the American League in overall. And then the RBIs, he's at like 128 right now. Again, that's a lot of times, like when you look at like David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, like those superpower hitters and like great lineups, they were averaging probably around 150 for a season. So the homer mark is definitely something that he's approaching. That also is a testament to what he's doing, because he's really doing it all by himself. Because there's so many outs within that Yankees lineup, and so many like 250 and under hitters that if he was on a team where even like two other guys were over 300, like you say, like the Toronto Blue Jays lineup, who have a lot of higher average hitters all along the lineup. I mean, he would definitely have like 150 RBIs right now. But he's, that shows how impactful his homers have been, and how he's basically carrying this Yankee team into this as leaders in the division.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to bring up a point because we're going to hear about it. Let's just assuming that Judge does not hit 70 or 71, which I think is a fair conclusion that he will not. Let's just assume he finishes somewhere between 60. Where is he? He's 60 now. Probably 63, 62, 63, 64, something like that. So he'll have Maris beat, but he will not have Sosa, McGuire, and McGuire twice, and Bonds. And what they all have in common is the Roids era. So what I don't want to hear, which we're going to hear, of course, if he finishes in the low 60s, I don't want to hear people saying, Well, as far as I'm concerned, he's the single season home run champ. No, like no, he's not. Like as far as you're concerned, means nothing. And I don't expect this to hear. I don't expect to hear this from you, but you know who I'm referring to.
That is
not you
100%.
personally, but you are going to have people saying, as far as I'm concerned, because he did it without the roids. I mean. The roids were roids. Everybody did the roids. Nobody tested it. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. When after the lockout, after the strike of '94, when nobody was going to baseball games, and McGuire and Sosa were roid raging people's asses back into the seats. Nobody cared. Everybody was all in favor of it. And then all of a sudden they cracked down on it, and you got people coming out of the woodwork. I thought what they were doing in '98 was a disgrace to the game. No, you did not. You did not. Send me an audio file or a screenshot of you saying that back in '98, or shut up. So I've always given leeway to the roids. I think the roids era people should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't see how a guy like Barry Bonds. I mean, yeah, his personality is not the most likable, but I don't see how a guy like Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you didn't test for it. The league knew about it, did nothing about it. So let's not put asterisks on things. There's a reason the MLB has not put asterisks in the record books, because they're not going to, because there's no such thing, with pertaining to the roids. So long story short, my long-winded rant there, because of course I got to throw some kind of dig at Yankee fans into there, if I'm going to support Aaron Judge. But I don't want to hear that, from people that, as far as they're concerned, he is the home run champion for the single season because of the no roids. That's just my opinion. I never had a problem with the roids. I never did. I never backtracked on that. It was a part of the game. So that's just my 2 cents on that. He's going to finish where he's going to finish. The only way he's, as far as anyone's concerned, the single season home run champ is if he gets to 71. So that's or whatever Bonds hit.
73.
73. Okay. He's got to hit a home run every game for the next 14 games. If he does that, then you can consider him the home run champ. Just curious, where do you stand on that? Do you see a difference? And good for him for doing it without the roids. All power to him. Where do you stand on that? The roids versus the non-roids.
Well, I'm going to say the forecast for your argument is definitely 100% going to happen. There's definitely the people that are going to be out there saying that. I'm not going to say that it deserves an asterisk, but it does. I think it does have notable mention where the steroids wasn't a part of it. I think as far as steroids go, it's basically there to build muscle and then be able to basically keep going when a person who wasn't on steroids would be able to, would fatigue out. And you still have to be able to hit the baseball. Like, it doesn't help, basically it doesn't help your vision to be able to see the baseball and to see what pitch is coming at what location to be able to hit it. Those different kind of things like that. There still has to be, skill and everything else like that to be able to hit a baseball. But I'm not 100% sure that they should go into the Hall of Fame. I think the arrangement they have right now is good. Unfortunately, I think Alex Rodriguez was the one who paid the biggest price for it, because he was outed while he was playing. Everybody else was outed after their careers, and you basically can't do anything to them but withhold the Hall of Fame. But they already made their money and everything. Alex Rodriguez ended up getting suspended for it and losing out on earnings because of this. So he was basically he was basically the scapegoat for everybody else as far as punishment goes. But I'm okay with the arrangement of not having them in the Hall of Fame right now for the steroids reason. But their records definitely have to stay, because they played through it through the time, and at that point, it wasn't as big of an issue as it was until afterward.
Yeah. And like you said, you still have to hit the ball. I mean, if you look at McGuire, hit 49 as a rookie, and if you ever, I had it, I think I still have it somewhere, his rookie card. And if you look at his rookie card, he's 125 pounds when he was a rookie. Still hit 49 home runs.
Yeah.
So it's all in if you have a great swing. roids or no roids. So yeah, that's just going to be, a debate and an argument forever. It is what it is, and yeah, it's going to be very entertaining. Where social media is going to be a very entertaining place when when Judge gets to 62. So I got my ammo ready.
Absolutely. So we're gonna we'll skip a little bit ahead to the. Let's talk about the other New York team that you're donning right now, the New York Mets. So right now they're in a division fight with Atlanta. So what's your take on what's going on right now?
I love the Mets. I hate the Mets, but I love the Mets. Because I mean Atlanta, like people are pointing out that they had an 11-game lead and it's down to 1, and they actually saw themselves a half game out at one point. They didn't collapse. When you got 162 games, look at your best teams in the history of, or basically any team that wins 100 games. You win 100 games, it still means you're losing 60 games. So, you can't just be on fire start to finish. It's just not possible. There's going to be, some downtime. The great thing about the Mets is that they've had that. They had a great tear when the Mets and Yankees first played each other the first 2 games at Citi Field, and the Mets won those. The Mets then had Atlanta, followed it up with Atlanta coming there. The Mets won 4 out of 5 from Atlanta. They just went on an absolute tear. And then they cooled off a little bit, and that's when the Braves, but they didn't really blow it, because the Braves, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but in the second half of the season, the Braves they don't lose. Like ever. I mean, the Mets lead in that division dwindled down, but not because they fell apart. They haven't fallen apart. The Braves are just unbelievable. They just refuse to lose. So now it's going to be a dogfight till the end, and the Mets and the Braves do have a 3-game series coming up. Not this weekend, next weekend, the second to last series. So that should be very, very interesting. But if you look at the Mets, since that 4 out of 5 from the Braves, they would go on a little bit of a slump, but then they would recover just nicely. They a 4-game win streak here, a 3-game win streak here, 2 out of 3. They lost yesterday to Milwaukee, but they just put together 6 in a row. I thought the end might have been near when they got swept at home by the terrible Cubs, but then they went out on the road, swept that sweeping the Pirates is anytime you sweep anybody, it doesn't matter. Like we've talked about the old adage, they're all paid professionals. Anybody can beat anybody. So sweeping a team in baseball is difficult, no matter how good or how bad the teams are, especially on the road. So they swept them, and now you've got Milwaukee, who is fighting for their playoff lives, and they just took 3 out of 4 in Milwaukee as well. So I'm loving what I'm seeing out of the Mets, in that they're going to lose a couple games here and there. They've been losing a couple games here and there, but they've been rebounding just nicely. So they have not collapsed at all. That lead dwindled. Don't forget, they played the first half of the season without the best 1-2 punch, starting pitching punch in all of baseball. They got those back, and I'd like to look at the numbers since they both came back. But I'm very pleased with what the Mets have been doing, because this recent 6-game win streak, just proves what I've been saying. Every time it looks like this might be that typical Mets second half collapse, they come on a nice little tear and rebound. So they clinched the playoff spot. I definitely want to win the division, because I definitely do not want to get in a 1-game playoff, because then it's just basically a flip of a coin. In whether, in who wants it more on one particular day. So I definitely do want to win the division. But if they don't, like I said, it will not have been a collapse. The Braves are just playing, again, I like to see the numbers, but the Braves second half of the season's got to be up there for the record books in their last 60, 70 games, because they just don't lose. So no, I'm very satisfied with how the Mets have rebounded after their little bumps in the road, and come playoff time, DeGrom and Scherzer as your 1-2 punch when, you're only using 3 starters. I'm very, very excited about the potential for this team come October, November.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I don't think this is like the same old Mets where they just ended up collapsing. The Braves are absolutely white hot right now. On the other side, there's the New York Yankees that lost 15 and a half game lead at one point. Now is dwindled down to around 4. That's a collapse. Like that was just them playing poorly. I think they lost like 8 in a row at one point, and it was just awful. You know, they went through like a 20 game stretch where they only won like 5 times, stuff like that. That's definitely a collapse. Now the Braves definitely 100% are uh, taking this to the Mets, but they're doing, they're basically just not losing, like you said. Um, the one thing I'll say about the playoff structure actually is different than what it has been in past years. So it's 6 teams in the playoffs, guaranteed in the playoffs. So what's going to happen is the top 2 division winners with the best records. So it's going to be the Dodgers and whoever pulls it out between the Mets and the Braves. They'll both have a bye, and then the 3 through 6 teams end up fighting within each other. So 3 will play 6, and then 4 will play 5 in a 3 game series, and then the winners of those will get allocated. The winners of those will play either the Dodgers or the Braves/Mets, depending on who ends up getting over there. So basically, what the Mets are fighting for right now is if they win the division, they'll get the bye, and then they'll play, like the regular baseball series and playoffs. Or if the Braves end up winning, then they'll be the 4th seed, and they'll have I guess the 2 out of 3 games at home against whoever they end up drawing against there. So it's basically playing a 3 game series to get into the real playoffs, or just having a bye and then having the regular playoff series. So being number 1 in that division is definitely going to be really important. Up, I can't hear you. I think you're out there for a second. I can't hear you at all. All right, so we're gonna get this situated. I got nothing. Okay, hold on one second. All right, we're gonna get this technical difficulty squared away.
Try
Hey,
now.
Hey,
can
okay, now I can hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Okay. I was saying, okay, good. So I was saying that I'm glad that there's no more 1 game playoff. And that's not even a COVID thing. They used to do that before COVID. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they did that. Once they expanded to a second wild card. I did not think that was fair. I don't think that you battle for 162 games. You have the least amount of teams per the league making the playoffs out of any sport. I don't think it's fair to survive that cut after 162 games and have your entire season come down to 1 game. So, you know, 3, it should be 5, but I'll settle for 3. 3 is much better than the 1. So, if the Mets don't win that division, they're going to get an extra 3 games, potentially 3 games, in which I would assume 2 of those games will feature DeGrom and Scherzer. So not the end of the world, but the more rest, the better. Come playoff time, doesn't matter what sport. The more rest, the better. It's better to sit and watch. Especially when you've got 2 guys with very fragile arms, your 2 aces. It would be great to be able to take an extra week off and watch those other teams. Plus, there's the potential for upset. If the Mets or the Braves, one of those teams is going to be playing in a best of 3. One of very easily could get knocked out. Stranger things have happened. So, you know, yeah, next weekend is going to be absolutely spectacular with that Mets Braves series, and I'd like to come out on top of that. And the Mets, the good news is, with the exception of those 3 games, the rest of the Mets schedule is relatively easy. But what does that mean when they just got swept at home by the Cubs? So you never know.
Yeah,
so it's gonna be fun.
Well, when you look at the extended strategy with that, if they play a if they play a 2 out of 3 game series, then if you use the 2 best aces, which is DeGrom and Scherzer, then you lose them basically for potentially games 1 and 2 of the next series, which will set you back. So that's something that they definitely don't want to do, and that's what's going to make this race even more spicy because it's just tons of implications going on in there. And then when you if you look at the Yankee side's about the same. When it comes to if they lose that lead, they're going to be in big trouble basically. But they're in the playoffs, and basically whoever they end up playing, if they end up not taking this division, 1, it'll be a super big collapse, and 2, they'll end up having to play one of the division rivals really because the Blue Jays are coming up and the Rays are coming up right behind them. So let's say they lose out to one, they're gonna have to play the other one really in that divisional series. So you definitely don't want to do that. All right.
Exact same boat.
All right. So we're gonna move on to let's talk about some football over here. So we got the top team in New York is the New York Giants. So 2-0 for the first time since 2016. They've been accustomed to starting 0-2. So this is a new territory for Giants fan and Giants land. So you being a Giants fan, how do you feel? What's going on? Do you feel are they the worst 2-0 team ever? Is that that's something that ended up that's getting thrown around?
No.
I don't know about that, but
there's actually, I remember when I was in college in the 90s, the Redskins, the artists formerly known as Redskins, started off 6-0 once, and the whole league was trashing them as the worst 6-0 team ever. And sure enough, they finished 7-9 or something. So I don't think they're the worst, but they might be up there. But we don't know what we're gonna get. We knew coming into this season they were a young team. The old line was better, but certainly not at 07 and 2011 levels. They've still got a major injury there in Shane Lemieux. We don't know what's going on with him. He was a starting left guard. So we don't know what's going on. Nobody knows if Daniel Jones is he's not the real deal. We know this. No, but we've seen teams win Super Bowls that don't have great quarterbacks. Trent Dilfer, of course, it helps when you have the greatest defense in the history of football. But the NFL's a different league now, and you don't need a Mahomes or a Brady to win. It helps, but you don't need that top notch. It's like in hockey. You don't need the best goalie in the league anymore to win in hockey. It's all about the guys around him. So I don't know. I don't know. We know Saquon is guaranteed. You got Kenny Golladay, supposed to be our best receiver. He's not even playing. So I don't know what to make of this team. It's fantastic that they're 2-0. It's great. We got the Cowboys coming up on Monday, and the Cowboys are certainly beatable. So I think that game's going to tell the tale. It's Monday Night Football. It's going to be ton of obnoxious Cowboy, New York area, terrible people, Cowboy fans, people wearing Cowboy jerseys and Yankee hats, which is the absolute worst combination of sports memorabilia you could possibly come up with. They're going to be everywhere. I actually turned down a very inexpensive ticket for that game, and I'm glad I did because I'm too old. My sporting event fighting days ended about a quarter of a century ago. So I'm glad I'm not going to that game, but very winnable game. And that's going to really tell the tale because the Giants are the better team. I believe the Giants, or at least comparable on the same level as the Cowboys. So the Giants should come out of that at 3-0. And obviously if they lose 2-1, certainly not over, but that's going to reveal a little more about what the Giants are, because we just don't know at this moment. They're very young. You got a similar situation going on the green half of that stadium. Very young, a lot of potential, but we don't know if it's time yet or if we need another round of draft and free agency, another offseason to get it there. I think the Giants are definitely headed in the right direction. I love the offseason moves. I love this coach. The first thing I want to point out is in game one when they were at Tennessee, and Coach Dable went for two instead of going for the kick. That's a very ballsy play, especially his first game as a coach. I love it. They went for two, and he got it, and the Giants ended up winning that game. So, that's making a statement. That's this coach saying the last 5 years are done. This is my era. Let me take this, and in Dable we trust. So, I'm optimistic about the potential, but I cannot make any predictions right now about where this team is going because we just don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I love the fact that Saquon Barkley is making a comeback. He's healthy now. A lot of people were labeling him as a bust and just like he was never gonna be what he's supposed to be. But now I'm pretty sure he's leading the league in rushing, or definitely up there with in the top three. Definitely, it's awesome to see him, succeeding and after all those rehabs, getting back to where he should be, which is at the top of the league. Uh, that he's basically the MVP at this point. Other than that, I don't know. I think they're basically beating winnable teams, depending on how you see the Tennessee Titans. Last week, they pretty much the Panthers are a frail franchise when you have like two highly drafted quarterbacks on the same team. That's got to be a weird scenario there. And then going into this week, they're going to play the Dallas Cowboys, who do not have a healthy Dak Prescott, so you don't have your number one quarterback there. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But you just have to enjoy the ride while it's happening.
Sure.
And that's the best way to look at it. I don't think it's fairly. Certainly not a Super Bowl contending team, and they might not even make the playoffs. I mean, the Eagles are going to run away with that one because they're looking like a studly bunch. And other than that, then you're trying to fight for the wild cards in fairly even NFC, where basically you have like two elite teams and everybody else is kind of just swimming in the middle. So how that ends up working out, I don't know for the future, but it's good to see them doing well, going off to a great start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, we just enjoy it for what it is right now, and this Monday night's gonna tell a lot about what this team is made of. That's one of those games you absolutely have to win. Dallas Monday night, a beatable Dallas team. A hostile situation in your own stadium, which it's going to be. But Giants fans will answer the call. So that's Monday night is basically a playoff game. They're gonna have to make a statement. So, meanwhile, you got let's talk about your team. You've got a beautiful comeback. I watched the end of that game. Absolutely fantastic. Just Cleveland Browns going to Cleveland Browns is what they're going to do. But you got to be excited about that because that's something in your life, that in most people's lives, that the Jets are on the other end of. So you got to be excited about that. That's a great way to get your first win.
Yep, absolutely. I think it was fantastic the way that ended up working out. As a Jets fan, you basically your expectation is that any win that you get is a great win. Doesn't matter how it comes, who it comes against. This one, what was it, 95 seconds to go in the game, and they end up having a 66-yard touchdown, and then getting an onside kick, which I mean in today's NFL is almost impossible to get an onside kick. They end up getting the onside kick, and then they end up scoring another touchdown to win the game. Fantastic. I mean, it was just it was amazing that it was able to happen, and it was just I'll definitely take more of those. I don't care how ugly win, whatever it is, like I'll definitely take it. When I looked at this season, I was thinking, hopefully if they get to 8, 9 wins, well, what used to be 8-8, now it'd be like 8-9, I guess, or 9-8. I'd take that, and that's basically we're par for the course right now. I'll be excited to see what happens when Zach Wilson's able to come back. But Joe Flacco is doing a favorable job. I think to this point, before those 95 seconds, everybody's clamoring for Mike White, who ended up subbing in last year, had a big win against the Bengals, who they're coincidentally playing against this Sunday. But I was one of them. I was like, Mike White, let's do it. Like why not? But Joe Flacco ended up coming in and doing his thing against a familiar foe, I guess, because he was a longtime Baltimore Raven, which they were division rivals. So he ended up playing the Browns 2 times a year, and he just got it done. He felt comfortable in Cleveland and made it happen.
Yeah, no, you never know. Sometimes, change of scenery does everybody good. I mean, just look at Stafford on the on the Rams, and a very well illustrated in a very genius AT&T commercial. I'm sure people have seen that commercial. So yeah, just change of scenery seems to be it for everything. I mean, Flacco is. I mean, guy's a Super Bowl champion, but again, the other example of a subpar quarterback winning with a phenomenal defense also happens to be on the Ravens. It was the Ravens both times, but kind of trailed off there and thought that might be the end of him. But no, he actually looks pretty damn good in what you've seen and what we've seen out of him, since stepping in. And you never know, you might have a quarterback controversy coming up. I doubt it because there's so much stock put in Zach Wilson, and what is he in his 3rd year now? So he's at the point where he's no longer learning, and this is his team to take over. And you need to know, now that again that the Jets are in the same boat the Giants are, in that this young up and coming team who definitely can at least compete for a wild card this year, you need to know if Zach Wilson is going to be taking the reins on this team for the future. As you're well aware, obviously the Jets have a long history, not quite as long and glorious as the Browns, but a pretty decent history of big time top 5 quarterback picks that turned into absolutely nothing. So, hopefully for everyone's sake, this is not one of them, and he's going to break that mold. But you need to know, which means, in my opinion, even if, Flacco throws for 404 touchdowns next week, when Zach Wilson comes back, should be his job. He shouldn't have to win that. Flacco is done, but I don't think that you would have a controversy, quarterback controversy there, no matter how good of a, Flacco is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the expectation. Basically, if the Jets make the playoffs, that'd be great, but it would have to come with Zach Wilson. Joe Flacco doesn't make them a Super Bowl contender by playing, but good for him that he's able to get a couple more games in on going on the twilight of his career and being able to make the most of it. So that's the best part of it all.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so we're gonna talk about some hockey now. We got training camps are gonna start up this week, and we got the New York Rangers who are looking pretty decent. So it came out today that Vladimir Kravtsov is gonna start off on the right wing with newly acquired Vincent Trocheck and Artemi Panarin, and then they're trying out Sammy Bly is gonna be on the right wing of Kreider and Zibanejad. So, and then the kid line is gonna stay intact of Cheeto, Lafreniere, and Capo Caco. So what are you thinking about what's going on here and the trade of defensemen that they ended up doing this week?
I don't know if look, Gallant's given us no reason not to trust the guy in his 1 year, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And he is a successful NHL coach, whereas I am not. So, but that's our job to question things. I'm not. as of now, I don't really like that decision. I mean, if I let it happen in the preseason, see what kind of chemistry they develop. The kid line was absolutely spectacular in the playoffs, but that's because they were the kid line. They're now a year later. These are all top 10 draft picks. You got a number 1 and a number 2 overall, and I believe Heedle was a top 10. They can't be on the third line forever. I think what we saw on the kid line, as great as they played together. If it were up to me, I would give these guys their next shot, which means Lafreniere. I mean, Lafreniere, we've seen what he can become. He is progressing the best and the quickest out of the three of them. And the guy is not destined to be on the third line. If we want to have a chance at a Stanley Cup, and this wants to be a Stanley Cup team, I thought he would get his crack on the top 6. I also thought Kakko would as well, because I thought that Kakko might be on the block. Yes, they resigned him for 2 years, but I figured they only resigned him for 2 years rather than a 1-year bridge deal, because that makes him more enticing as trade bait, because he wouldn't be a rental to wherever he goes. So I mean, look, he's 21. He's not ready to write him off, not call him a bust, but I was just hoping that he would be better, more productive than he was. He did look decent in the playoffs, but we didn't think he was going to be the playmaker, the secondary assist guy. We thought he was going to be more of the sniper. Of course, we didn't think we were going to get 75 assists out of Panarin either, but it happened. So. I thought Kakko for sure, because we are kind of weak on right wings in terms of depth. I thought for sure Kakko would get a shot on this playing with Panarin and Trocheck, a solid center, and of course Panarin, who is the ultimate playmaker. And I thought that this would be Kakko's shot, where he played with those two guys. If he is 80% of what we're hoping he would be, that's an easy 80, 90 points. I thought he was going to get his shot. So again, it is just preseason. They're just playing around with lines, but I thought that Kakko definitely. We're kind of heavy on left wing, so I don't know if there's necessarily room for Lafreniere, but the guy is made to be on the top 6. Just the Kakko disappoints me because I thought for sure this would be his shot, and if he didn't shine, I thought for sure he would be on the block. There's the Patrick Kane rumors and whatnot. Well, he's definitely getting traded. We know this for a fact. There is zero chance he finishes the season in Chicago. If the Rangers are a team like last year, definitely a playoff team, a contender in some level, you add a guy like Patrick Kane to put you over the top. We saw what the Rangers, did, adding pretty much 3 no-names. I mean, yeah, Tyler Mott, everybody kind of knew. I'm sorry, not Mott. Andrew Comp, everybody kind of knew, but he wasn't a household name. Vetrano, definitely not a household name. So, and these guys were, and Mott, all these. 2 of those guys, the first 2 guys, were all in the top 6 on an already going to the playoffs team, and were just amazing for the Rangers. So we saw what the Rangers could do, adding 2 not so household names. You add a Patrick Kane around February, now you're in business. And I get it. He's 33. Kakko's 21. Again, I'm not calling Kakko a bust. He's just not where we thought he would be by now. He's in his 4th year. That's not. He's only 21, but he's got the experience. So, long story short, I'm not sure how I feel about the lines. I thought they would have to break up the kid line to get the guys that I thought Heedle would stay on the third line because Trocheck, Zibanejad, there's just, he's not going to be, overtake either of those guys for their spots. So I figured he would be the one guy that would stay on the third line, centering the third line. And I thought the other 2 would get bumped up to the top 6. Not the case. Might be the case later. I don't know. A little surprising is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think when you look at it from a overall standpoint, like, yes, there is going to be a lot of fluid movements in this. And then a lot of times in preseason, you'll see, like, the lines that they work on consistently are not the ones that they actually play in the games. Like, it seems like they just kind of just jumble everything and see what they end up getting at that point. What I will say is I like that, they're trying to get the most out of Sammy Blais, because you look at it, he was traded for Pavel Buchnevich, and last year Pavel Buchnevich was a point-per-game player and made a really big impact on the St. Louis Blues, and we definitely could use a guy like Pavel Buchnevich on our team, like, basically we just ended up giving him away just for Sammy Blay. So I think Sammy Blay has something to prove, and the Rangers have something to prove on what they got in return for giving up Pavel Buchnevich. So I think that kind of coincides together. And then we also have the kid line staying together. I think, if the chemistry is there, if you look at it from a third line standpoint, but the NHL nowadays is they're really really big on rolling all four lines, and even like the top three, let's say the top two lines, they'll get like maybe 18 minutes a game, and then like the third line will get like 15 minutes a game, 16 minutes, and then like the fourth line will get about 10 minutes, depending on how everything or the flows of the game and such. But the first line to the third line, as far as minutes go, maybe like 2 minutes, maybe like 4 shifts or 5 shifts apart. So if they can make the most of that time, that they could score 3 goals in 15 minutes of time together, where the top line has 19 minutes and doesn't. It's like it's different variations like that. I don't think it's that big of a deal to label it the first line, third line, top 6, and such like that if they're all effective in what they're doing. And then lastly, you got to get something for Kravtsov. At this point, he was a holdout for a while. There was a whole drama issue there. They're still sticking with him. I think this is just to showcase, to have some trade value, so you could package him and somebody else to try to get a Patrick Kane later on. That's what you have to do. They have to get something for Kravtsov because he's too good to just let him go. But at this point, he has no trade value because of his attitude and different things like that. So the better he can play as a New York Ranger, and the more he can show, the better it'll be in the future for us to be able to flip him over for somebody else. Like put 1 or 2 young defensemen, and then attach them together with a Kravtsov, and then maybe get a Patrick Kane down the line when, because during the course of the NHL season, if you don't have too many call-ups and such like that, you end up gaining cap space, which is why the New York Rangers were able to acquire players last year without giving up anybody on the roster, because they had that extra cap space that they accrued throughout the season. And I think that's the plan for either the New York Rangers or whatever other contending team to add on a Patrick Kane at the end of the season, at the trade deadline, is to do it with the accrued cap. So if the Rangers are able to do that, with being able to make a more attractive package, then hopefully they could win a Patrick Kane and then add him to the roster, and then add on to the depth and the experience and everything else that he would bring to the table.
Yeah, and I'm okay with Kravtsov getting a crack at the second line to start. I'm surprised, but you kind of put it into perspective there, saying that they're basically trying to up his value. He'll be playing with Panarin, so I'm sure Panarin will have some wise words of wisdom. And if he doesn't have it in his head already that this is probably his last shot, I'm sure Panarin will make him understand in 2 different languages. So there's that. The question is, though, I mean, we've seen what he can do. He's got amazing talent. He does. He's a great puck handler. He's a playmaker. He could shoot. He's got that definitely that sniper aspect to him. He's only 22, but that's my main concern. This is a team that for so many years, the last 5 years, it was rebuild, and then last year kind of came out of nowhere, and then the whole exceeded expectations thing that wears off real quick. There's no more that was an excuse for Islander fans that went to the conference finals 2 years in a row and then just fell off the map. Well, it's okay because we exceeded expectation. Well, no, that only works at the time. Now you got to take the next step, and this team is ready to win now. So do you roll the dice by putting a guy with 0 NHL experience, all right, 10, 15 games, whatever he played? We did see some flashes of the potential this kid has, but do you really want to put a guy, he's got to adjust, from playing in the KHL, he's got to adjust. Any adjustment he made to the North American style, to the NHL, the major league. I mean, I know there's some decent talent in the KHL, but it's not the NHL, and it is, a different style. That's all gone. The 10, 15 games he played, decade gone like it never happened because he reverted right back to the KHL with the nonsense last year. So do you really, and again, it's preseason, they're going to see how things work, but do you want to roll the dice with this guy, 22-year-old, with his attitude? I think the attitude should be in check. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that the attitude should be in check this time around, because I think he'll finally understand that this is his last shot. But just the youth and the lack of experience. Do we want to center our Stanley Cup dreams on this guy on the second line? I thought for sure Kakko would be on the second line and Kravtsov would get his crack, taking his spot on that third line. And even if you want to keep Lafreniere and Hedl there, I think he would be a fine fill in for Kakko on that third line. Gallant sees it different, and like you said, it could be more playing time to up his trade value. I don't necessarily see him as definitely on the block because, again, he was drafted for a reason. When Gorton drafted him, we knew that there was the potential that that he might be an issue or even coming over at all from Russia. That's why when the Rangers took him, I think it's 7, I think they took him, most of the experts were saying talent-wise, absolutely a top 10 draft pick. However, there were a lot of question marks about this guy, and that's probably why the Rangers did get him at 7. And if the Rangers didn't take him, he probably would have gone second round or at least very, very lower, but not because of the talent. The talent we knew was going to be there. It was everything else, and we're seeing firsthand that there were some legitimate concerns there that came to fruition. So it's a big roll of the dice. We'll see how it goes. We know he's got the talent. Let's just hope his head is in the game and he adjusts quickly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kravtsov went around 17. The number 7 pick that you're referring to
Okay.
is actually Lias Anderson, who was
Lias
a big swing and miss. And you think about, I think we traded him for like 1 or 2 second rounders or something like that. I mean, just overall big swing and miss, and that's something that they don't want to do with Kravtsov right now. So basically, I mean, the worst case scenario is, he doesn't play and he's like, he's just basically stuck in the same position he's in. Or the best case scenario is that either A, he does really well as a New York Ranger and scores a lot and becomes a productive player for the New York Rangers, or plays himself into a bigger role to the fact that he's attractive in a package for somebody else. So basically, the Rangers are trying to just get as much as they can for this at this point and see how it ends up working out. So I'm definitely in favor of what they're doing there and trying to get him up or get him out. But right now he just has no trade value, which is you don't want to just trade him for just a second or third round pick. You want to get the maximum value there back.
Yeah, and he was just not to correct you, but he was 9th. He was 9th overall, first round. Okay. So, but yeah, I think they think they had a higher pick that year, and he was the second one. I don't recall, but yeah, that's the only reason. The experts were saying he could have been 4 or 5 if not for the question marks surrounding him, and clearly. Clearly, there was some legit concern there.
Well, let's hope he does. That's the main objective there for sure. And we'll just touch on real quick. So they ended up trading Niels Lundqvist to the Dallas Stars, a young defenseman, puck moving defenseman. Traded him for a first rounder to the Dallas Stars. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I was at first. I'm not disappointed that he was traded because when the kid's 22 and says, I'm staying in Sweden, I'm not coming. I wanted to be furious at that at first glance. However, I get it with Zach, with Braden Schneider, who was originally below him in the depth chart, coming up and being one of our best defensemen as a 20-year-old. Kid's unbelievable. Lundqvist knew that that's going to hurt his chances of making this team because now, we've got 3 solid on that side. So I think the way it went about it was not great, but, it's a business, and it's as much of a business for the players as it is for the teams. So he did what he felt was best for himself, and it got himself traded. So good for him. I think the returns are great. A first round pick and then a conditional. That's couldn't really ask for more than that. The reason I was disappointed is that I was I'm really holding on to this Patrick Kane thing, and I thought that he was being the big name prospect that he is. I thought that he might be a piece of that because we know for a fact that Lafreniere is off the table, but Hedel and Kako are not. And it would probably be one of the defensemen, and that now probably leaves Zach Jones, who I don't want to trade because we saw what he could do. For about 8-9 games, and then they sent them down. He was playing with Braden Schneider last year. They were both a pair of 20-year-old rookies, and the two of them had just this amazing chemistry. So we could assume that Zach Jones will probably be definitely that sixth defenseman, if definitely seventh, if not sixth defenseman, making the team this year. So, but the question is, if they are looking for, that big name trade, Kane or somebody else, we thought that Lundqvist would be involved in that trade, or at least the potential. Now that might swing towards Zach Jones, which I don't want to happen. So it'll be what it'll be. We'll see how it plays out. But I think it's fair as a Ranger fan to say, good riddance to Lundqvist with Braden Schneider being as good as he was last year as a 20-year-old rookie. There didn't appear to be any room for Lundqvist as a starter on this team in the near future. And by near future, I mean the next 5-6 years. So it's probably best for both parties that he went somewhere else. And the Rangers got a very good return for him.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the Rangers, we talked about it on the show in the past, that the Rangers stocked up on these puck-moving defensemen in hopes that they would either package them in trades to get a bigger player or, just end up getting draft picks. I mean, they ended up getting a first-rounder for Brady Shea, who
Yeah.
a lot of us wouldn't think that would garnish a first-rounder, but they waited until the trade deadline. The Hurricanes really wanted him. This was pre-pandemic, so it wasn't like we didn't know the shutdown was going to happen. I'm sure if the Hurricanes knew the shutdown was going to happen, they definitely wouldn't have went up, gotten Brady Shea for a first rounder, but they ended up getting the first rounder for Brady Shea, and just the puck moving defenseman. That's what you get for it. So the fact that Lundqvist was able to say that he wants to get traded, and they still got the first rounder for him, I think that was the most impressive from what the New York Rangers were able to do. This is exactly what they needed to do. They have too many defensemen. You can't have them just sitting down on the bench and sitting in the minors when they deserve to be up there. So kudos to the New York Rangers for finally doing that. And maybe that first round that ends up being a part of the package for Patrick Kane that ends up being more valuable than maybe Lundqvist just being disgruntled and not performing at his best. So I think it worked out for all parties at that point. And I don't think there should be any hatred toward Lundqvist for that because he just wanted to